Hi, it's Sarah, and we are on the third episode. Why can't I do that? Talking about gamification and how we can apply it to young people and perhaps parenting. I have notes all around my computer, so if you see my eyes moving, that is why. I am learning this. I'm a little bit ahead of where you are, but only a little bit. And what I'm attempting to do is apply this to a program for young people, so we can apply gamification to coaching and young people, and possibly look at applying it to parenting, because I think there's some great tools in there. Today we are moving on to the sort of the pillars and how to be gameful. I can think of the word there. And the first one being to challenge yourself. And I just want to read a quote to you here from the book. Every game works the same way. Every game offers us the opportunity to accept a challenge or a goal that by design will stretch our capabilities and help us develop new skills. A gameful mindset is a challenge mindset. When we play a game, we volunteer to be challenged. So the first step in gamification is volunteering to be challenged. Now, the big challenge is that most of the real life things that come along, we wouldn't actually volunteer for. Some of them would, like if we decided to run a marathon or something, but most of the challenges that come along, we'd rather not have to deal with them. So we have to reframe everything so we can actually want to volunteer to do it. The reframing in the book she calls cognitive reappraisal. I had to look up there because I wanted to get it right. And she uses anxiety as a good example. She says that, what happens in our body when we have anxiety is very, very different. It's very, very similar even to what happens in our body when we have experienced excitement. So telling someone who's got anxiety to calm down is really difficult because all the things that happen in their body are not calm. Telling a person that's got anxiety, or telling yourself if you've got anxiety that actually you're excited, is much easier to get into that excited mode because your body is already doing some of the very similar things, like that you're breathing and everything like that, which is very similar to excitement. So she talks about this cognitive reappraisal where we look at what the challenge is and kind of flip it. So it is about turning a negative into a positive, but I think that's a bit sort of blur. So I kind of like this whole cognitive reappraisal, compute sort of cognitively. So in your mind, convincing yourself that actually I want to do this. I want to volunteer to do this. We don't volunteer to be anxious, but we might volunteer to be excited. Excuse me, I just need to drink here. And another thing we have to be aware of when we are picking our challenge, because we're going to go through this together and you are going to pick a challenge, is the difference between a threat mindset and a challenge mindset. Now, in the book, she talks a lot about gamers having these challenge mindsets. If you work in the youth industry or the parenting industry, you may be familiar with these words as growth and fixed mindsets, which is similar to what she's talking about. So people with threat mindsets see everything that comes along as a threat. And if you work with a lot of young people like I do, this is where most of them are. And when you have that kind of mindset, you're much more at risk of anxiety, depression, of being very stressed, and all the associated things that come with that. So it's not a great place to be. When we move to a challenge mindset, we see the opportunities for growth in something. And this isn't about sort of being unrealistically sort of optimistic. It's about, looking at something going, okay, this is difficult. It's going to be hard, but I can see that I'm going to learn something here. So you don't see it as a threat to your existence. And what Jane argues throughout this book, which I've never seen in this way before, and I love it, is that actually when we challenge ourselves and we create more of a challenge mindset, we actually create something, called self-efficacy, which is a really hard word to say, which means that we know that we're in control and we have the ability to change. Now, you'll hear lots of parents and lots of people talking about young people having no self-esteem or no confidence, etc., etc. I think what they really mean is this young person feels like they have no self-efficacy, so no control over their ability to change. And I see this an awful lot. So what we want to do and what we're trying to do in this first part is move ourselves from a threat mindset to a challenge mindset. It doesn't mean that someone with a challenge mindset doesn't see something as difficult or can't see the negatives. It's just that what they do is look for the possibilities and the hope within that. I know it sounds easier said than done. So here's what she suggests, and I'm just going to sort of go through this. She believes that when we choose goals, there's 3 different ways of choosing them, and it's not that she believes, she's sort of done the research here, and I get this. There's the difficult goal. Let me just read through them first. There's the difficult goal, a general effort goal, and a strategy goal. Now, a difficult goal might be someone says, I'm going to run the marathon in 4 hours. Really, really challenging goal. And for some people, that works really, really well. I have to say, I am one of those people. I set very, very difficult goals. So from never running, I suddenly said, right, I want to run 5K in, 25 minutes. And I am one of these people. And that's okay. I've totally got a challenge mindset. So I will already set a challenging goal, but that's not everyone, and that's okay. There's the general effort goal. I am so not keen on these, and I see parents saying this to their children a lot. So if we go back to the marathon, this might be someone who said, you know what, I'm going to try and run the whole of the marathon without walking. But if I walk, it's okay because I put in my best effort. I just don't dig these at all, personally, because I think that what is best effort? But you can set goals like that, and if that's working for you, carry on. But what I see a lot of parents saying is, well, you put your best effort in. Well, did they really? So, but you can set goals like that, and if it works for you, I'm not dissing you, honestly. The third goal is something called a strategy goal. So this is where you look for the strategy to get to the success rather than the end result. So, for example, if we go back to the marathon runner, this might be a marathon runner saying, I'm going to run the race this time like that and see what happens to me. Now, I did set one of these the other day, actually, when I went out for a run. I normally run on grass, and I thought, you know what, I'm going to see what it's like to run on the pavement today. And I'm going to go a different way, and I'm just going to see how that feels. So that was a strategy goal. I didn't like it, but I learned that I didn't like it. So the whole thing with a strategy goal is that you are learning from the goal. So you've got these really difficult goals, work for people who are very, very clear on that they have a challenge mindset and this works for them. But for most people, this doesn't actually work. You've got these general effort goals where you'll try your best. I always think they're a bit wishy-washy, but anyway. And then you've got these strategy goals where you focus on the strategy to accomplish the end result. These are the type of goals that people in threat mindsets need to take on because they work better. Because a difficult goal, sends them into, fear generally. Good effort goal, still a bit of fear, and actually what does it mean? And the strategy goal, when you focus on the strategy, then the end result, it tends to work better. And this is what we do in gaming. Yes, you know what the end result is, but you probably get killed a lot of times along the way or whatever, like me. And you try a strategy, it doesn't work. You start again, you try another strategy, it doesn't work. You try strategy, it doesn't work. Then you try strategy and it does work. So that's what we're aiming for here. Okay, so we're aiming to set a strategy goal if a difficult goal doesn't work. If you are working with young people, I would suggest a strategy goal, definitely. And if you're trying to set a goal around parenting, set yourself a strategy goal too. Because a difficult goal, like, I'm just going to be nice to my kids all day, might be too much. You know what? Schools set difficult goals, actually. So a school will set a goal like, for a child that's misbehaving, they'll suddenly say, okay, so you've got to behave in every lesson every day. It's just too much. They'd be much better at focusing on strategy goals. I want you to go in this lesson and figure out how you could behave. you know, or let's try this strategy, or let's try this strategy, and let's come back and see what works. Much more effective. Okay, so how do we set a strategy goal? Okay, so here's what there's a few things, but I've taken the one that I kind of like the best actually, and it's something that I use a lot with myself. So you'd pick the thing that you're trying to change, and I'm just going to get to the examples she uses here, because they're actually, some of them are really good, and I should have put, okay, so I've got it now, I should have put a thing in it. So you pick the goal that you're working on. So for example here, I'm going to use two examples, like I've lost my job, or my book manuscript was rejected by the publisher. So there's two kind of the challenge that you're working on, or you want to work on. Then what you do is you talk about the worst possible thing that could happen. Okay, so lost my job, turned to a life of crime is the worst possible thing that could probably happen. Book manuscript got rejected, never write a word again. And you'd be surprised, people do this, right? They do this. So first of all, you think of the worst possible thing that could happen, and then you flip it round to think of the opposite thing. So for example, lost my job, turned to a life of crime. What's the opposite of turn to a life of crime? Turn to a life of service. You know, never write again. Oh, why am I? Don't know what happened there. That was intriguing. Apologise, but we're 10 minutes in and I'm not re-recording it. What's the other one? Book manuscript, never write again. Write something every day. Now this is a bit tricky. I'm not gonna lie. If you're doing this with me, we might need to brainstorm what it is. And certainly if I was doing it with a young person, that's what I would be doing. So you're going to pick the thing, the challenge that you want to work on. Think of the worst thing that could happen, then flip it around, and then you've got something to work with, which can become your challenge goal. So for example, in the writing one, it was, you know, write something every day. It might be write a certain amount of words every day. With the one that was turn to a life of crime, turn to a life of service. So, you know, how does that, you know, work out every day? So do you do one thing of service every day? Do you do 3 things a week? How does that work out? So this is how you work out the challenge. And then, and this is what she says you do, which I love this. So you're going to pick your first challenge. Now, it might be that your first challenge is only a small part of the bigger challenge. That's fine. And the way that you write it, which I love this about this book, is that you write, I am getting super better at. So I am getting super better at writing, and I'm going to, you know, commit to writing, you know, try and commit to writing this much a day, or I'm just getting super better at writing, might be enough. But obviously for each person, this is really different. So the first thing we do in applying gamification into our work is set a challenge. I want to say goal, but I don't know if it is a goal. But anyway, set our first challenge. And our first challenge is something that we're getting super better at. There you go. That's simple. So let me know how this is working for you, and I'd love you to work along with me. And next week we move on to the next step. But you know, obviously you've got to have your challenge before you know how the next steps, what you've got to do there. So that's why we have to pick our challenge first. All right, take care, have fun. There's the book again. It actually kind of goes with my outfit today. That's unusual. Okay, bye.